Hi, I'm Katie and I'm the designer behind Katie and the Squid. Welcome to week 4 of the Leudinghause Crochet-Along. So hopefully you finished the trim and you have basically a cardigan without sleeves, because this week we're going to make the sleeves. Now in the pattern, it's really easy. You're just going to start with a round of foundation single crochets, and then you're going to work up, and as you're working you will add increase rows to where it says in the pattern. And then once you get up to the sleeve cap, you will start working in rows, and you're going to decrease for a nice sleeve cap. And then you'll go back and you'll add a little bit of trim to the bottom. I just think that adds a nice little finished look to the bottom. So I've already started round 1 of the sleeve, which says to foundation single crochet, and then there's a list of numbers, so reference your pattern to see how many foundation single crochets you're supposed to make. For size small, I needed to make 30. So, and then it says to join to the first foundation single crochet with a slip stitch, and you want to be careful not to twist your foundation single crochet round, because it can be really easy to just do that and join. So what I like to do is run my finger down it, and that helps me keep it from twisting. And you'll join with a slip stitch to that first stitch. Now you'll notice here that there's a bit of a gap here where your first chains were for your foundation single crochet, and then where you ended with the last one. So that's really easy to tuck in and hide when you weave in your ends later, and you can even just do it right now. I just like to poke it in through that last stitch, and then when you weave in your ends, see, you can just weave it in there and it hides pretty well. So round 2, it says to chain 1 and turn, keeping in mind that round 1 is your right side row, or round rather. So what I like to do is pop in a stitch marker so I can remember that's my right side. So round 2 says to chain 1 and turn. And because we're turning in the sleeve rounds, it can be really easy to miss your first and last stitch. So make sure you're working into this first stitch, and don't forget this last stitch here where you joined with a slip stitch. So it says to extended single crochet in each chain, or in each foundation single crochet around. When you get to the end of round 2, you'll join with a slip stitch to the first extended single crochet. And now take a second and read this next chunk of instructions. It says to repeat round 2, adding an increase round, and then there's instructions for the increase round below, on the following rounds until you have 65 total rounds. So, and then it has for each size, it lists each round where you want to add an increase round. So we're going to work until we have 65 rounds. Now while we're working those 65 rounds, we're going to be adding increase rounds. So for size small, and it also happens to be for size extra small, it's telling me to add an increase round on rounds 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and 60. And then for all the other sizes, it's a little bit different. So I'm going to keep working round 2 until I get to round 5. And then when I'm at round 5, I'm going to add an increase round. And then I'll work rounds 6 through 9. So when I get to round 10, I'll add an increase round. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to keep working until I get to round 5, and I will show you the increase round. So here I've repeated round 2 until I came to round 4, because round 5 is going to be an increase round. So for the increase round, it says to chain 1 and turn, and then it says to extended single crochet into the first stitch. So I'll work 1 and 2. And that's our increase. And then it says to extended single crochet in each stitch around, and then you'll join with a slip stitch again. So now once I've finished this round, I'll go back to repeating round 2 until I get to my next increase round, which will be round 10. So the way I like to keep track of these increase rounds is I'll take my stitch marker and see I used it to mark where my right side was. I'll take it out and then I'll move it to this round, and this round happens to be a right side round, so I'll move it to this side. I always like to keep it on the right side so I keep track of where my right and wrong side is. And I'll move it there. That way I know that this marked round was my last increase round, which was round 5. So then I can just count from there and I don't have to go back to the beginning and keep counting. It just helps me keep track. So I'll keep doing that, and I'll add my increase rounds according to the pattern until I have 65 total rounds. So here I've worked all 65 rounds of my sleeve, and we'll move on to the sleeve cap. So we're going to go from working in rounds to working rows. So row 1 says to turn, and then to slip stitch into the first 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, and then chain 1, and extended single crochet into the same stitch. Next we're going to extended single crochet into each stitch, leaving 2 stitches unworked. So you'll just extended single crochet in each stitch around and leave the last 2 stitches unworked. So round 2 says to chain 1 and then turn, extended single crochet into the first stitch, skip 1 stitch, so I'll skip this one, extended single crochet in each stitch until 2 stitches remain. So I skip that stitch, and now I will work in each stitch until 2 stitches remain. So when 2 stitches remain, it says to skip 1 stitch and then extended single crochet into the last stitch. So for that row, we've worked a decrease on each side. So next it says to repeat row 2 until you have, and then there's a list of numbers until you have X amount of rows. So for size small, I'm going to work until I have 13 rows, and then so I'll be decreasing 2 stitches each row. So you'll periodically want to stop and count your stitches to make sure you're on the right track, and then it has your stitch count for the very end. So when you get to the very end, do count your stitches to make sure that you have the right amount of stitches. So here I've finished the shaping of my sleeve cap. I worked all of the rows, decreasing up, and then I double checked and I counted to make sure I had the right number of stitches here. So to work the trim at the end of the sleeve, you'll start with the right side of the sleeve facing you and join to any stitch. And I like to join near my seam just to keep all my seams lined up, but it doesn't really matter. And then you'll extended single crochet, chain 1 into the first 2, and then you'll skip 1 and extended single crochet into the next 2. And you'll repeat this all the way around. So you'll work into 2 stitches, skip 1 stitch, 2 stitches, skip 1 stitch, all the way around. And then when you get to the end of the round, you'll just join with a slip stitch, and then for the next round, you'll chain 1 and turn, so for round 2. And then you'll simply just work an extended single crochet, chain 1 into each chain 1 space around. And then at the end of this round, you'll join with a slip stitch again, and then you'll repeat this round one more time and then fasten off. Now once you're done with the sleeve trim, it'll look like this. And then hopefully it's obvious, once you finish the first sleeve, make a second sleeve. And once you're done with that, you are done with all the pieces of your cardigan. And then next week we're going to block, and then we'll seam the sleeves in, and then you'll weave in your ends and you will be completely done. Don't forget to follow me on social media, and if you're posting on social media, to use the hashtag SquidCal16, and be sure to pop into the Facebook group, show your progress. You can also start a Ravelry project page to show the progress of your cardigan. And then next week we're gonna wrap this all up. So I will see you next week, and I can't believe that we're almost done. Bye.